7 years behind bars and $200 million to repay. The sentence for Ukraine's former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko for abusing her authority while signing gas deals with Russia. RT's Alexey Yaroshevskiy is following the events, joining us now live from outside the court where the Tymoshenko supporters have been involved in scuffles with the police. As you were saying a moment ago, Alexey, the crowds have dissipated a little bit, but certainly there's been some high emotions running there. 7 years in prison. Your thoughts?
Well, definitely her sentence in full means that she will not only spend the next 7 years behind bars, unless, of course, she appeals against the decision, but she will also have to compensate $200 million in damage, which the court believes she inflicted to the Ukrainian budget. Also, we understand that her property will also be confiscated, and after she spends 7 years in prison, for the next 3 years she will not be able to have any governmental post or have any governmental work in the government or anywhere in the state bodies. This is, of course, something a little bit unexpected by many experts, because many thought to the last minute that Tymoshenko would get a 5-year suspended sentence, which would set her free immediately, but would rule her out from any political campaigns in parliamentary election next year or the presidential election in 2015. Now we received the news that she got the 7-year sentence. This is definitely the plea of the prosecution, so she received the sentence in full. The Iron Lady of Ukrainian politics, as she was commonly known just several years back when she was the country's Prime Minister, reacted with indignation to the ruling by the court, saying that the Ukraine is now back to the 1937, to the times of the Soviet repressions, and that she said she will continue fighting for the freedom in Ukraine, even from behind bars. So the situation with Tymoshenko is still unclear. We do not know for sure whether she would be eligible to appeal against this decision, and we are certainly waiting for any comments from her lawyers and from the prosecution as well.
Now, Alexey, Tymoshenko and her supporters for quite some time now have been saying that this case is politically motivated. Any truth, any substance behind those statements?
They, in fact, have been claiming all along that this case is politicized through and through. They've been, in fact, calling this particular day, the verdict reading day, as the doomsday of Ukraine's democracy, meaning that should Tymoshenko be sentenced to some term in prison, then it will be the end of democracy in Ukraine. President Yanukovych, on the other side, has been saying that this case has no political background, that this is a purely criminal case, and in the latest interview he said that he didn't care at all about Tymoshenko's fate. Also, there have been very sharp comments coming from the European Union, in the latest one from Ms. Ashton, the foreign minister of the European Commission, who said that should Tymoshenko get a prison sentence, then a possible deal on association between the European Union and Ukraine would be cancelled. Also, we've heard very interesting comments coming from Moscow in the wake of the accusations to Tymoshenko that the gas deals which she struck with Russia in 2009 were unlawful. Moscow is adamant that these deals were signed in full accordance with the two countries' laws. So this is definitely a melting pot, and nobody knows who's right and who's wrong here. But for now, the simmering tension has been dying down for the last hour, with no violence, no clashes in the street. But the situation still is at knife's edge, with thousands of protesters here and many more thousands of police troops also blocking the roads and blocking the protesters from attempting any violence. We are monitoring the situation and will be updating our viewers both live on air and on our Twitter, RT_com and Yaro_RT.
All right, Alexey, we're now getting reports here at RT that the EU could actually review relations with Ukraine given this verdict on Tymoshenko. We'll be checking with you throughout the day to get details on this. RT's Alexey Yaroshevskiy. Many thanks. Well, the EU has condemned Tymoshenko's sentence, saying it could, as I was saying, reconsider relations with Ukraine in response. President Viktor Yanukovych is due to hold talks in Brussels next week over an association agreement, which is a first step to joining the EU. John Laughlin from the Paris-based Institute for Democracy and Cooperation is sceptical about whether that will ever happen.
I traced the history of 300 years of trials of former heads of state and former heads of government. And generally speaking, I have to say that I am a skeptic about these trials. I am no supporter of Yulia Tymoshenko, but I think that it is very dangerous to use the criminal law to adjudicate acts of state. And this is what has happened in this case. The European Union has already made it clear that it views this trial very dimly. It takes a very dim view of this trial. It doesn't like to see opposition politicians put in prison. And I think there is every chance that the European Union may take some strong measure, such as freezing the talks with Ukraine. On the other hand, frankly, there is no chance at all of Ukraine joining the European Union. The idea that Ukraine, at least in the next 10 or 15 years. So these negotiations, I'm afraid, are really just for form's sake. They don't have any real bearing on reality.